You are hemorrhaging wealth right now, not from bad investments. From invisible laws you're violating every single day without knowing it. There are 10 rules that govern how money actually moves. And the people who build real fortunes follow all of them. You're probably breaking most of them. The gap between where you are and where you could be isn't talent. It isn't timing. It's these laws. Who gets rich and who stays broke comes down to 10 operating principles that govern how money flows. Who it flows toward, who it avoids, and why. And number 3, the one almost everyone ignores, is the single biggest reason talented people stay broke. Let's go. Law 1, revenue gravity. Money doesn't flow toward hard work. It flows toward systems. Stop celebrating how hard you're grinding and look at what you've actually built. If your income vanishes the moment you stop showing up, you don't own a business. You own a job you created for yourself, and you're both the employee and the boss. Except the boss can't fire the employee, and the employee can't quit. Think about the landscaper who's the best in the city versus the one running a crew of 20. The first one makes great money until he gets sick, takes a vacation, or burns out. The second one makes money, whether he's on the job site or sitting on a beach. Same industry, completely different financial realities. The only difference, one built gravity, the other built a grind. You feel this, you're exhausted, but you can't take a break because the money stops the second you do. That's not ambition, that's a trap. And every month you spend inside it is a month you could have spent building the system that runs without you. Here's the move. Ask yourself one question tonight. Which part of my income keeps flowing if I disappear for 2 weeks? Whatever the answer is, that's your gravity. Everything else is just your labor dressed up as a business. Build the gravity first. Everything changes after that. Law 2, selective ignorance. And this one is going to offend you. The path to wealth is not consuming more information. It's ignoring almost everything. Every podcast, article, and course that doesn't directly serve your next revenue-generating move is noise. And noise is leaking your energy every single day. Your attention is your most liquid asset. Stop pouring it into content that pays you nothing. And this goes beyond entertainment. Even productive content becomes noise when it delays execution. Reading about marketing strategies doesn't grow your revenue. Implementing one does. Learning about investing frameworks doesn't build your portfolio. Making one calculated move does. The gap between consumption and execution is where most people's financial potential quietly evaporates. Look at how you spent your first hour online today. How much of it moved you closer to revenue? Be honest. Information without execution is entertainment, and entertainment doesn't compound. Now, this is the one the title warned you about, and it's the reason you need to pay attention for the next 60 seconds like your financial future depends on it. Law 3, invisible leverage. This is the law almost everyone ignores. And it's why the most talented person you know is still trading hours for money while someone half as skilled earns 10 times more. Invisible leverage means building systems, assets, and processes that multiply your output without multiplying your input. A book earns while you sleep. A sales funnel converts while you eat dinner. A trained team executes while you're thinking 3 levels ahead. That's leverage. And most people never build it because they're addicted to being busy. Busy feels productive. Busy looks impressive. But busy without leverage is just an expensive way to stay broke. Ask yourself honestly, right now, How much of your income depends entirely on you showing up? If the answer is all of it, you're violating the most important law on this list. And every month that passes without leverage is a month your income has a ceiling bolted to your personal hours. Here's how to start. Take one task you repeat every single week that doesn't require your unique expertise, and build a system around it this month. A template, a process, a hire. One piece of leverage created now frees capacity forever. That's how the invisible compounds. Start small, start now. This is the level of wealth psychology we go deeper on inside the 1% Club by VYBO. The frameworks for building leverage, shifting your frequency, and operating under laws most people never learn. If you're done collecting information and ready to start collecting results, link is in the description. Laws 4 and 5. These two explain why some people can have the right strategy and still repel money. Because the problem isn't always what you're doing, sometimes it's what you're carrying. Law 4, wealth frequency. Feel that tension in your chest when you check your bank balance? That guilt when you spend? That anxiety when you invest in yourself? All of that broadcasts a signal, and money responds to that signal the same way people respond to confidence. It flows towards certainty and runs from desperation. If your relationship with money feels tight and fearful, you're on a frequency that pushes wealth away from you. Every time you flinch at an investment, your logical mind knows is right. That's your frequency leaking. And leaked frequency costs more than any bad financial decision ever could. Here's the shift. Next time you invest in your growth and feel dread, breathe through it. Reframe it as a deposit into future revenue. Train your nervous system to associate money flowing out with money flowing back multiplied. Stop spending with fear. Spend with intention. And that single shift in energy changes everything about what flows back. Law 5, opportunity cost blindness. Every yes you give to the wrong thing is a no to the right thing. You say yes to a low-paying client because it feels safe. But those 20 hours a week could have built the offer that scales to 6 figures. You didn't just accept low pay, you rejected high pay. You just couldn't see it. And the costs compound silently. One bad yes doesn't ruin you. But a pattern of bad yeses over 12 months locks you into an income bracket you were never meant to stay in. The hours perfecting a logo instead of closing sales. The weeks planning instead of launching. The months in a partnership that drains more than it delivers. Every wrong yes builds an invisible cage. And the bars don't appear until you stop long enough to look around. Start auditing your yeses the way an accountant audits expenses. The leaks will shock you. Now stop. Because the first 5 laws are the foundation. How money enters your life, what frequency you're broadcasting, and what your yeses are really costing you. But these next 5, they're about positioning, identity, execution, and becoming someone money moves toward instead of away from. This is where the laws stop being theory and start becoming income. If you've made it this far, you're already ahead of 90% of people who clicked on this. Now let's make it count. 6 and 7. And these 2 are the ones that are going to make you the most uncomfortable, because they're the ones you're most likely violating right now. Law 6, the proximity effect. Look at the 5 people you spent the most time with this month. If none of them earn double what you earn, that's your ceiling talking. It's not their advice that changes you. It's their normal. When 6 figures stop sounding impressive and start sounding like a starting point, that's proximity doing its work. Change the room. or the room will keep you exactly where you are. Here's the practical step. Find one community, one mastermind, one room, physical or digital, where the baseline income is double yours, not to network. To recalibrate your normal, your subconscious can't outperform the standard it sees every day. Feed it a higher standard and watch what happens to your ambition, your pricing, and your tolerance for staying small. Law 7, income ceiling identity. You earn exactly what you believe you deserve, not what you want, what you believe. Here's how you know your ceiling is running the show. You set a revenue goal of $20,000 a month. You get close, hit 18. Then something breaks. A client leaves. An unexpected expense appears. You drop back to 12. That's not bad luck. That's your identity ceiling, dragging the money back down to where your psychology says it belongs. Here's the override. Write down your current monthly income. Now write the number you want in 12 months. Every morning before you open your laptop, read that number and ask one question. What would the person who earns this do today? Then do that. Not what feels comfortable. What the next version of you would do. Let the behavior lead. The identity follows. And here's the part that should fire you up. This means your income isn't fixed. It's programmable. You're not stuck at your current number because of the economy or your industry or your circumstances. You're stuck because your internal blueprint hasn't been updated. Update the blueprint and the income has no choice but to follow. That's not motivation, that's mechanics. And once you see it, you can't unsee it. If these laws are clicking into place, this is exactly the level we go deeper on inside the 1% Club. Full frameworks, daily systems, a community that won't let you shrink back to comfortable. Link in the description. Stop thinking about wealth. Start engineering it. These last 3 laws are the execution layer. Most people never hear them because they quit the video before this point. You didn't. And what you're about to hear will separate you from everyone who clicked away. Lock in. Your ego is about to resist this one. Let it. Then listen anyway. Law 8, Reinvention cycles. The person who made your first 100,000 is not the person who will make your first million. And you're clinging to the old version like a life raft, even though it's the exact thing pulling you under. The scrappy hustler has to become the strategic operator. The solo performer has to become the leader who builds teams. Every new income level demands you shed a previous identity like old skin. Cling to it and your growth caps. Release it and the next level opens. Nobody tells you this part. They tell you to work harder. They tell you to grind longer. They never tell you that the version of you doing the grinding is the very thing standing between you and the next level. You felt this already. That tension when your business needs you to delegate, but your ego insists on doing everything yourself. That resistance when you know you should raise your prices, but something inside whispers you're not worth it yet. That's the old version gripping. And the longer you let it drive, the longer your income stays parked. Here's the move. Identify one behavior that belongs to your current level, but not your next one. The micromanaging, the undercharging, the doing instead of leading. Pick one, eliminate it this month, not next quarter. This month, reinvention starts with one outdated behavior at a time. And here's what's at stake with these last 2 laws. If you ignore asymmetry and magnetism, you can master the first 8 and still plateau forever. These are the laws that separate solid earners from people who build generational wealth. The next 90 seconds could redefine how you operate for the rest of your life. Law 9. Asymmetric execution. One right move is worth more than 100 average ones. Stop spreading yourself across 15 projects hoping one hits. That's the lottery approach to wealth. And it produces lottery odds. Most people spread thin because it feels productive. 10 projects in motion feels like momentum. It's not. It's motion without direction, and motion without direction is just expensive cardio. Real momentum is one thing done relentlessly until it produces an outsized result that changes the entire trajectory of your income. So ask yourself, if you could only work on one thing for the next 90 days, what would produce the most revenue? Whatever you just answered, that's the only thing that deserves your prime hours. Everything else gets delegated, delayed, or deleted. You're not being unfocused because you lack discipline. You're being unfocused because nobody told you that focus itself is a wealth law. Now you know, act on it. And here's the empowering part. You don't need more resources to execute asymmetrically. You need fewer targets. The person with one clear objective and relentless execution will always outperform the person with 10 objectives and scattered energy. You already have enough. You're just spreading it across too many things. Consolidate, commit, and watch what one focused quarter does to your entire financial trajectory. Last law, and this one governs everything you just heard. A law 10, wealth magnetism. It asks one question: are you chasing money, or are you becoming someone money chases? You know the difference when you see it. The person constantly pitching, constantly hustling, constantly grinding for every sale, versus the person whose calendar fills itself, whose referrals compound, whose expertise is so visible, the right opportunities show up without a cold email. One of them controls their income, the other is controlled by it. Which one are you right now? This is the law of laws. Because when you master magnetism, revenue gravity strengthens, your selective ignorance sharpens, your leverage multiplies. Every other law compounds on top of this one. Stop chasing. Start building the kind of value that makes money chase you. Chasing is exhausting because it's infinite. There's always another lead, another pitch, another cold outreach. But magnetism is self-sustaining. The better your value becomes, the stronger the signal. The stronger the signal, the more opportunities find you. The more opportunities find you, the more selective you become. And selectivity is what separates rich from wealthy. Here's how to start the shift today. Pick one skill, one offer, or one asset, and commit the next 90 days to making it so good it sells itself. Not good enough. Undeniable. When your value becomes undeniable, you stop needing to chase. The magnetism turns on, and it never turns off. You have everything you need to make this shift. The only question is whether you'll start today or keep telling yourself you'll start tomorrow. 10 laws, one decision, revenue gravity pulls money towards systems. Selective ignorance protects your focus. Invisible leverage frees your time. Wealth frequency sets your signal. Opportunity cost reveals your real losses. Proximity reshapes your ceiling. Identity determines your income. Reinvention unlocks the next level. Asymmetric execution multiplies your results. And wealth magnetism makes all of it compound. 12 months from now, you'll either be someone who heard these laws or someone who lives by them. The gap between those two people is everything. You already proved something by making it to the end. Now prove the rest. Your move. And if you want to understand the one daily money habit that separates the top 1% from everyone else, that's exactly what we're breaking down next.